I'm sure you also had the argument that, since the DPR is part of the ex-official member, as you
yes.
called it, and they were part of it until almost when the collation was being done, they say you shouldn't have been part of it because people also saw it as, maybe a kind of
Audit.
audit of DPR. You had that argument.
I heard it, and I think, what is the objective of this at the end of the day? If really the objective is to get things right, and move the country forward, it will be so. I won't say unfair, but it wouldn't be right to go and bring people from the moon and think in 90 days they can see all these areas of misalignments, and you just will not be able to do that. So I think it was the right thing to do, to also make sure that NNPC, FRS, DPR were ex-official members of the team, so that they can provide some of this clarification. Our industry is not a particularly very easy one to understand. I've spent over 30 years in there myself, and I'm still learning. So it's not a particularly easy one to really understand.
I know the perception out there is that Nigerians, a number of them think that government agencies, especially in the oil sector, are always trying to cover up one infraction or the other because they think there's a lot of corruption going on in that sector. So when these committees come up time and again, and DPR, NNPC happen to be ex-officio, and this kind of report comes up, and some of the figures are not verified, some people find it untenable to say that they can be a member of that committee. DPR can be a member of that committee, and figures that were not verified are eventually submitted and published and being talked about and submitted out there. Because at the end of the day, it comes back and indicts the self-same members of that board, and that doesn't look good. Why would DPR let that happen?
Well, it's like I said, this was a lapse during. It's a process lapse within the committee itself. It shouldn't have happened, and I guess that was also part of what Mr. Steve Olorunsola was raising, that there were some process issues that still needed to really be corrected, but it didn't really happen. It's a pity. That's basically what I will say. When I read through the report again and again, I think a week or two extra will have really magnified the value of those findings, in my view.
Okay, let's look at some of the things that they recommended in the area of, based on one of your key functions, optimizing revenue for government.
Sure.
One of the things is that DPR should take action and enforce collection of the amount due of $3.027 billion from relevant operators.
Yes.
Is it, what do you say to that?
Is that specific on royalty or what specific?
Royalties.
Yeah. Again, it's all, people need to understand the process of determining royalty and collection of the proceeds. So production happens, from the wells. When they do happen, it comes with crude, comes with impurities, it comes with water, it comes with gas, it comes with all sorts of things. So on the wellhead, you can't do much. It goes into a flow station where the first stage of processing really then happens. You remove the water, you remove a bit of gas. And it goes then to the terminals where you really have proper stabilization. And that's actually when you actually get the right quality of crude out.
That was one of the recommendations. But this particular figure that's out here, was it determined?
Yes, it was.
Properly determined?
It was determined, but usually we still go through very lengthy processes of reconciliation. Because DPR determines, but you, the owners of the operators, we give you the opportunity and we do this on a monthly basis. So it's really not an issue. There have been some bit of backlog, but we're getting out of that very gradually. A big chunk of that 3.6 you mentioned, of course, is the long-standing issue with the ADAX, which is 1.5 billion, and that's a totally separate issue itself, which is being still reconciled and discussed with government.
How many barrels of crude do we produce per day?
If we take this year, for example, we've done roughly, an average is roughly 2.5 million barrels per day. And a lot of that, and it's coming from three terrains, big chunks. The onshore areas, the shallow water areas, and of course the deep water areas. I can tell you now that the onshore production is shrinking and shrinking.
Why is that?
A lot of activities hadn't really happened onshore, in the onshore areas, and of course it is the oldest of the flogged fields, so they're also getting very old, relatively to the shallow offshore, or relatively to the deep water. But also don't take away the fact that we had quite a lot of access issues in the last 5 years when we had the Niger Delta issue. So it's only now that people are really gaining access again to put the fields really back.
Well, you try to paint a picture about your staff strength, which we know, well, is small compared to what you say you monitor. But again, in places that people would want to call city centers, how come people still don't get some of these people monitored? Now we got a tweet here that says, well, you should be told that in Ikotun, which is here in Lagos, fuel is being sold for 110 naira every day, and no one from your department has even done anything about that. Now, we try to marry that with the refineries, maybe the place of DPR in refineries maintenance. But first, on this monitoring.
Sure. It's and thanks, and I get this almost every hour. Those who have my phone, and they send me text messages. And it's around the whole country. And so what do? As soon as I get them, again, we divert people into those places, and they look at it. In the last 4 weeks, I've shut down between 450 and 600 stations, around the country, for various reasons, not just for price escalation. There are all sorts of other sharp practices, the under deliveries, some even adulteration, some even hoarding, all sorts of things. But you're dead right. A lot of it is selling above the official price. Now, but it's also, you also ask me, why am I shutting down stations when there is also scarcity at the same point in time? So it's a little bit counterintuitive. If we're really to go with the law, if you shut down stations, you should keep them for 60 days, which means most of the ones I'm shut down right now, they are not going to come up until after Christmas. But we said we can't do that, looking at what Nigerians are going through. So as soon as they come up and say, okay, fine, we're ready to be good boys again, we'll say, okay, fine, go ahead and reopen. So it could be one of those very remote stations where, of course, if you have a staff strength of so number, you probably will put them at the heavier areas,